I'm really nervous.
It's fine.
Good morning, Illini. I'm Madeline Foster.
And I am Rebecca Wood,
And we are here at ILJEA.
which is the Illinois Journalism Education Association's conference, held every fall here at the University of Illinois.
I'm really excited to be here. It's early. We have a lot of very excited high school students getting ready to hear from some esteemed alum. How are you feeling this morning?
I am feeling good. It is bright and early, that's for sure, but I'm so excited to see these new faces of journalism hitting the U of I campus.
Exactly. Did you ever come to this conference when you were in high school?
I didn't, actually. I didn't really do journalism much in high school, but I had to come last year.
Oh, really?
For a class, so
Just
I
for a
know
class.
a little taste of it or what's happening.
I know, it's really
So,
exciting. I
did
did
you
not
come?
have any journalism experience in high school. I kind of thought I wanted to do it, but was not really sure, but finally got it here, and I'm so excited to see some students who are already ready and know what they want to do, and it's really exciting.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that's awesome, and these kids are already ahead of wherever we were in high school.
Exactly, and I
That's
cannot
awesome.
wait to hear from today's keynote speaker and Illinois alum, Ted Land. He has created journalism in our backyard, Champaign, Illinois, to places far away like Anchorage, Alaska. He covered so many stories from wildfire chases to visits at children's hospitals. He's an Edward R. Murrow Award recipient for writing and an Emmy Award-winning journalist from KING 5 News in Seattle. We'll bring you live coverage of this speech later on.
We are so excited to see so many fellow journalists in attendance because the goal of today is to motivate and empower high school journalism.
That's right, and that's awesome. And for those of you watching, the ILJEA has been around since 1988. So that makes this year its 30th year, which is crazy. Love it. The goal is to promote high standards in student media, which includes like newspaper, yearbook, broadcast, all different kinds of things. Media is definitely not one-dimensional.
Yes, so true. And in the mid-1980s, a group of high school advisors in Illinois who have been meeting informally at Journalism Education Association conventions for years began forming what we know as from today the Illinois Journalism Education Association. Their goal originally was to strengthen the state of Illinois journalism programs, and it still does today.
And today we have the following schools in attendance with us. We have Altamont, Carlisle, Harrisburg, Heron, Herscher, Conant,
So many.
Caneland, Marist, Caneland, and Manuka, which is crazy, and so many more high schools. It's just awesome to see how many students are here getting involved. We even have students from Urbana High School and the University High School as well.
Yes, and my hometown, York High School.
Oh
I
my
didn't go there,
gosh,
but
that's
hometown.
awesome. I'm a Southern Illinois gal. We don't always make it. You know, you never know, but that's okay.
Yes, and we'll hear from Ted Land later, as well as Stephanie Kraft, Dean of the College of Media, as well as some of the journalists in attendance today.
That's so exciting. Can't wait.
And now Madeline is going to be talking with our keynote speaker for the day, Ted Land.
Congrats. Yay, so excited.
Yes, welcome.
How are you?
How are you?
Welcome back to campus. How are you
you.
feeling today?
Very good. It's crazy to be back.
It
It's
is,
amazing how
for
much
sure.
it feels familiar, and then also how much it's changed. You notice little
Yes.
things as you walk around. So
Yes. Did you know about Good Morning Illini? It's kind of a new
I
development.
just
Are
heard
you glad
about
to?
this on my visit. This is amazing.
That's
We didn't
awesome.
have anything like this, and it's come a long way since when I was on campus.
Yeah.
It looks great. It
It's
looks
really
good. I walked
exciting.
in and saw this whole setup, and I thought, yeah, this looks like something we would do at our station.
I
for,
love
like the
it.
state
I
fair
love
or
it.
something.
It's awesome.
Really impressive.
It is really good experience. So we're definitely lucky to have it, and it's all thanks to alum like you who are building up our programs. And I also
Absolutely.
have some fun questions for you. So
Okay.
I know that you were also an alum of the Marching Illini.
I was.
So what instrument did you play?
I played trombone, did that for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And actually last night I made my way into Memorial Stadium.
Did you
Where
really?
they were practicing, and I was like the only one in the stands way up at the top
Oh my
watching them
gosh.
perform, and it was really cool. It just felt so familiar.
That's so
And
neat.
they were doing a Star Wars show and learning how to like walk through the show and whatnot.
Oh, gosh.
But I mean, I was down on that field for 4 years, and I just remember all the people and the little like traditions, and it's amazing how all of that carries over 11 years later.
Yeah.
People are still like doing the same little things like before the show, after the show. The director has the same kind of like quirks and whatnot. It's
I love
really
that.
amazing. So,
Yes, I'm sure that brought back a lot of nostalgia.
Absolutely.
So what about this? Do you have any memories of being a journalist on campus? What were you involved in? Just any fun memories from that?
Yeah, we had a really good group of students my year, and a lot of us were really driven to get into TV, and
awesome.
so we would do these newscasts and spend late nights in Greg Hall editing.
Yeah.
We
do too.
We had to do tape-to-tape editing, which is probably
gosh.
kind of foreign to you guys now.
Yeah.
It's a kind of antiquated, outdated way of editing, but we had to learn that and digital editing.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was just a lot of like late nights with a really good group of people.
That's awesome.
In the basement there, and it was just such a good time to meet these friends. And I look at where we are now. There's people in Minneapolis, Milwaukee. I'm in Seattle. We have people spread across the country who now work in the business, and you can call on them whenever you're in that city, and we all remember those good times.
That's so fun. We have a huge alumni base, especially of multimedia journalists, which is what you are, to my understanding. So, what is your favorite part about being a reporter and being involved in multimedia?
There are a lot of definite perks to it, and I just love the opportunity that I can walk up to someone who's a total stranger, and because of what I do for a living, because of what my craft is, they will like open up to me and tell me things that you would never tell to a stranger otherwise. I mean, I'm amazed sometimes I meet somebody and within minutes they're expressing some of their deepest insecurities or deepest pain, and it's really remarkable, and it's all because of who you are as a journalist. And people still believe that they have stories to tell, and they're looking for somebody to share those with, and I'm just so grateful when people do that. It's not always that easy, but what other job is out there where you can ask people about really anything and expect them to respond? And it's remarkable.
Learn something new every day, which is really incredible.
Yes,
so what has been your favorite thing to cover? So I know you've covered kind of an array of things, from like wildfires and food and just really a whole array. So what's been your favorite?
I have so many favorite stories. It's hard to choose just one, and I know a lot of reporters have that same answer to that question. Like I don't have just one story, because every year there are like 5 or 6 that stick with me. I'll tell you what kind of stories I do love to cover. It's stories where somebody did something good for another person without any fanfare, without being asked, without a press release, without inviting cameras there. Just people who do nice things for one another because they're good people.
I love that.
And they do it because it gives them hope. And they do it quietly. And then when I find out about it and I say, hey, can I share this with people? Can I get some video of this? Can I tell a story about what you're doing? And they say yes. That's the greatest feeling to me.
That is,
And it's a story that otherwise our audience would never have seen. So that's what I'm looking for. Those are the stories when I'm able to do it. I feel really good afterward.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely good to kind of share those stories and share those moments of humanity that we might not always see, like you said, behind the scenes.
We do a lot of stories about bad things that happen to each other. People doing bad things, people experiencing bad things. I think it's equally important to reflect the good things that are happening in the world, because we're holding up a mirror to the community and saying, this is who we are. And there are a lot of really hopeful moments within a day that I'm privileged to share.
Absolutely. And those moments have taken you all across the country. Have you ever been out of the country, done any reporting elsewhere?
When I was a student here, we actually went to China.
Oh, wow.
For a class. Right after my senior year, as part of my last semester here, we did an international reporting project.
Oh, wow, that's really neat.
And it took us to China, and there were about 10 of us, and we each came up with a topic that we wanted to cover. I covered electronic waste, because a lot of our old computers and cell phones and TVs and whatnot get shipped overseas to get scrapped, and of course the regulations there are very minimal, and so it's very hazardous to people's health. And it causes a lot of other problems. So we tracked down where old electronics end up in China. And it was an amazing story. And it took us to a really foreign place, an unfamiliar place. And actually, after that story, after I did the story as a radio story, it got picked up by a like public radio show in the United States, and then I had a writer from National Geographic email me and ask for some of the contacts that I had in China, and
That's
National
incredible.
Geographic ended up doing a story on it.
Oh,
which
neat.
they probably would have done anyways, but
I
it
love
made me
that.
feel good that I was onto something there.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And well,
Yeah.
we are so glad to have you here, and we're so looking forward to the speech that you
It's
were about to
great.
give. So
Thank you.
so much for speaking with
Thank
me
you. I
today. It was
appreciate
so
it.
nice to
So
meet
nice
you.
meeting you.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thanks.
And we're actually going to bring Miss Stephanie Kraft back here, and she's kind of the head of our journalism department at College of Media, and I think that we're going to have Rebecca speak to her. So we're going to welcome you guys on up. Hi, thank you so much.
Okay, what's the best sitting thing? Do you cross your legs? Do you?
You know, whatever's natural.
Kind of do one leg down.
Oh, I like that. I know that. You can always like put the chair up or down too if you want.
That's right.
Hi,
Close to
welcome
being
back.
open.
We're here with Stephanie Kraft, who is the head of the journalism department at the College of Media. Now, why does the U of I host this conference every year?
Well, why not? No, I'll give you a real answer. The real answer is that the Department of Journalism, like most departments of journalism, really cares about seeing the progress of journalism education from way before students ever get to college, right? It's an important kind of set of skills for people to learn, but it's also super fun. It's a way to know your community. It's a way to build critical thinking skills. There's all kinds of things that go on, you know, in high school and even junior high school, right? That's super important that we want to be part of helping to foster and bolster and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe get people here, recruit them here to really have access to great technologies and experiences like this too, to launch careers in journalism.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So what do you hope that the students walk away with today?
Well, first I hope they have fun, right? I mean, journalism is fun. It's an exciting career. It's not all just super serious, although sometimes it is. I mean, I'm sure as Ted is going to talk about, some of the stories that he's covered are really serious or tragic or whatever, but we hope that the day of kind of meeting other students who are interested in these things, hearing from experts, kind of getting a little nibble of the kinds of things that journalism can mean that aren't always obvious when you're just sitting back in a classroom in high school. Like, who knew that you could use drones in journalism, right? But you do, right? So just kind of a fun experience and a good overview of some of the really exciting new cutting edge stuff that's coming up and ways to make their own newspapers, TV stations, whatever, back home really, really good.
Yeah, cool. We have a lot of that here at the university.
Yes.
You know? So what kind of advice do you have for these young journalists?
Well, I think that sometimes these days it can be sort of discouraging to think about journalism because there's a lot of, you know, talk about like, oh, you know, I don't even want to utter the words fake news, but I will say them. There's all that talk about fake news. There's talk about, you know, difficulties in employment in journalism, but that really misses the bigger picture. It's an exciting time to be a journalist. It's an exciting time to figure out what your community is, what their issues are, what their needs are, how you can help them, you know, by bringing information to them about things. There are so many different ways of distributing information to people now. There are so many ways of connecting with them and really serving the public. It's incredibly exciting, and I think that sometimes gets missed in kind of all the doom and gloom.
Now, what is your favorite part of today?
My favorite part will be when I'm done speaking. No. Well, I really think that, you know, when I looked over the schedule that the organizers had put together, which I have to say I can't take any credit for, they did an awesome job without me. But when I look at that, I'm like, wow, there's like such an array. I don't even know where to, people are doing stuff that I didn't even know they were doing, like all these like tricky Google things that I didn't know. That's going to be a session. You know, it's hard to pick a favorite, right? Because there's just kind of, I will say that whoever wrote the captions, not craptions headline or panel description or whatever deserves an award.
Yeah, that was clever. And then why did the university pick this keynote speaker?
Well, Ted is an alum, as he's told you, and I think he's a really good example of someone who's had a lot of success, of course, but he's the one-man band. I mean, he can do everything, and he's doing it at such a high level. He's a pretty modest guy, but he's won a ton of awards, including national Murrow Awards, which is huge, right? I mean, newspapers have their Pulitzers, you know, broadcast has Peabodys and Murrows, and he's won a Murrow. And so I think the students will get to see someone who can do all different kinds of things, but has, again, that idea about how do I connect with my community? What's the best way to tell this story of all the tools that I have? You know, for this particular thing, what's going to make the most sense? I think he's going to be sort of inspiring to them in terms of all the different kinds of things you can do.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This is Stephanie Kraft, the Dean of the College of Media and the head of the Journalism Department.
Are we still on?
Good morning, Illini! Yeah, see you on the other side. Have a great show, everyone. Have fun, have fun. Through rain, heat, snow, ice, every damn day we give it all we got.
Welcome back. So next Friday, we will be back in Richmond studios for the season premiere of Good Morning Illini. You can wake up with us every Friday morning at our new time, 10 a.m. So excited, a little bit later. So I have some sneak peek footage for our next week's show, so check it out.
Fancy airboats or jet skis to help.
We're trying to do what we can.
Not if you're David Vasquez and Karam Abdul-Majid, who rushed to a subdivision just south of Houston's Barker Reservoir, where rising water flooded homes.
Y'all got more people?
This inflatable rubber raft proved to be a very valuable asset in this community where hundreds of people were forced to evacuate.
It works. We rescued about 50 people yesterday.
Volunteer rescuers arrived with whatever they had in the garage. If it floats, they'll use it. Letty and Stephen Edmondson lost pretty much everything in their inundated house. Volunteer boat owners helped them survey the damage. Their kids, who are staying with friends, have a lot of questions.
They're worried. I know they miss.
Excited for next week's show. We'll be back after a quick break showing you some sights and sounds from our first home Illini football game against Kent State.
Journalism advisor at York High School in Elmhurst, Illinois, and I'm here with a group of students. We came to Journalism Education Association conference to learn and to see U of I.
So exciting. So what really inspired you to be a part of this conference?
Well, I'm a member of Illinois Journalism Education Association, and our students are doing such a good job that we wanted to bring them here so that they could learn more, both from like what it's like to be on a college campus and see what you guys are doing, but also from the breakout sessions and the keynote. It's just going to be all around a good experience for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What do you guys do at York High School, correct? What do you guys do there in terms of journalism?
We do a lot. So we have a website that's our like daily upload news stuff, student run. We have a magazine that we publish quarterly, roughly quarterly, and then we have a news station that does features and daily news broadcasts called YTV. That guy walking behind me right there, that one, he is in charge of the news station, and maybe he will come join me if you want to ask him some questions. But the students upload every day to the website, but they also produce a news broadcast every day.
Wow, that's some really incredible work experience, absolutely. And for college too, good thing to kind of get your feet wet. So what is your favorite part of this conference in particular?
This is my first time, so far it's this.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you enjoy your time at the conference.
So nice to meet you. Thank you. That was awesome. Super sweet.
Yeah,
so I'm really excited for the conference. We're going to get our speech started, have a lot of students here.
I know, everyone seems really excited. Energy's up? That's
energy
for sure.
is up. It's as much energy as I've ever seen this early in the morning, especially for college students who want to sleep in until noon every day. So,
yes, thank goodness.
So anyway, I am going to be here soon with some students kind of talking about what they're looking forward to.
I can't wait to hear from them.
I know, I'm really excited because I know whenever I was a high school student, I had no idea. I was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be a journalist? Who knows what's going to happen? So kind of excited to see them.
It's going to be cool to talk to them. They seem so eager.
Yes,
really
absolutely.
High spirits here.
So
I'm really
I
looking
think
forward
that we
to
can
it.
start welcoming some high school students up. If you guys want to come on up and join us up here, that'd be awesome. Hi. So how are you guys? Okay, so let's just start off kind of introducing yourself. What's your name?
I'm Isabel.
And what high school are you guys from?
We're from York High School in Elmhurst.
Okay, very exciting. Are you all from York High School then? York High School. That's so exciting. So what sort of journalism are you guys all involved with at your school?
We do the yearbook newspaper, and then we have morning announcements, so we do broadcast journalism too.
That's so exciting. So what are you excited to learn about at this conference, or what are you kind of bringing to the table and really looking forward to? Anybody?
Everything.
I'm the assistant editor of the yearbook, and I'm excited to like take the theme class and really learn how to create a theme throughout the yearbook so that it's like cohesive and interesting for our students to see.
That's super exciting. It's awesome that you guys are really gaining some experience for college and for future jobs. It's good to kind of get started early. So do all of you want to do journalism when you get to college? Advertising. Okay. We have some multimedia. So have you guys heard about Ted Land, who's our keynote speaker today? Yeah, it's kind of. Well, you are going to find out. We are very excited to have him here. He's going to tell you a little bit about the business and a little bit about how to get started. So, what are some of your guys' like career goals? What are your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations in multimedia?
Yeah, as big as possible.
Yeah, go crazy.
Dream jobs.
One of my biggest goals and dreams would be like an anchor on the news, just like you guys are doing, because I've been on the news a few times in the past, and it's really cool being reported by a reporter, and I do the YTV announcements. We like trade off groups, and I really enjoy doing that. So I really hope that I can go into something like that in the future.
That's really exciting. Why do you guys think that conferences like this are especially important for students right now in the changing climate with media and everything that's going on? It's a big question. Just why are you glad to be here? Why is this a good time to be here?
I'm glad to be here because it's helping us to like explore to make sure like this is what we want to go into, and like also help us learn more about it to get better at it, like where we are in school doing it now.
That's awesome. What made you guys want to really get started in journalism and multimedia? Oh, we got a hand.
Hi. So when I was in middle school, I had done like a kind of newspaper club. And so I really enjoyed my time there. I had a really good teacher who kind of taught me the basics of journalism. And so then I got into it at York, and it was so much fun. We've got a great community, and it's really interesting, and it also allows you to understand more about your school. So that's kind of the reason I want to continue doing it, because I want to learn more about the world that I'm in and more about where I'm at, and college allows me to do that.
That's awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
I hope you guys have fun at the concert. It's gonna, the concert, here I am. Like, the conference. We're so glad that you're here. So thank you guys so much.
Yes, thanks guys.
Bye. Thank you.
I would like for the student journalists in the audience to stand up for just a moment, please. And I would like you to please repeat after me. We are powerful.
Woo!
You are. You can take your seats. As you go through today, I want you to remember that. I want you to remember the tremendous power that you have to tell stories that need to be told, to shine light in the darkness, to tell the truth, to be fair, to express opinions in an intelligent way, to raise the consciousness of the people who read your publications. You have that power. And we know from studies that kids in high school who do journalism are simply sharper than the rest of the kids. So it's great that you're here today. We hope you get a lot out of it. Advisors, we cordially invite you to join us for lunch right around the corner here after the second session. And at the luncheon today, we will be presenting one advisor from each school with a free raffle ticket. And once everyone has his or her ticket, we're going to do a quick drawing, and the winning advisor will receive a check from IJEA for $300, which will pay for 3 admissions to Chicago 2018, which is the JEA NSPA National Convention, which is being held in Chicago, the Hyatt Regency, from November 1st through the 4th, and we certainly hope that you can all be there for the convention, or at least part of it. It is my pleasure now to introduce to you, before I do that, I would be terribly remiss if I did not ask you all to join me in a warm round of applause to thank our host, our new host, doing this for the first time here at the University of Illinois, Mr. Kenneth Erdy. Thank you so much. He never broke a sweat, not at all. And it is my pleasure now to introduce to you the chair of the journalism department here at the University of Illinois, Stephanie Kraft, who will introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you all so much, and have a great day today.
Good morning, everybody. So good to see so many of you here today, bright and early. As he said, I'm Stephanie Kraft. I'm the head of the journalism department here, and I'm here to welcome you to an exciting day of learning and really doing journalism. I want you to know that in my life before a professor, first of all, I want you to know I had a life before I was a professor, but in my life before a professor, like everyone on our faculty, I was a reporter too. I was a journalist. And I got my start just like you did and are by working in student media at my high school and by going to workshops like this. In my case, it was at the University of Nebraska, and it that changed kind of everything. But I think the point is the same, that those experiences in high school, in those workshops at the university and so on, really launched me into a career later as a reporter and now as a journalism professor. It was a pretty fun career, I have to say. So anyway, I'm so glad to see so many young journalists here today, and there's no better person to launch you into this jam-packed schedule that we have for you than the person who will be speaking next, Ted Land. Because I will tell you, if you saw his little bio, well, that doesn't tell you everything. His life is jam-packed. His work is jam-packed. Ted Land, our speaker today, does everything. He writes, he shoots, he edits, he produces, he does social media, he does online stuff. He really does everything. He's kind of a one-man band. And what he might be too modest to tell you, though, is that he's award-winning at all of those things, and indeed has won a very prestigious national award for his reporting, a Murrow Award. He also works for one of the top-rated television stations in the country, King 5 in Seattle, and I'm sure he'll tell you more about that. It's also an award-winning station. I encourage you to take note as you're listening to Ted talk, not only about all the kind of crazy skills that he has, right, and all the kinds of things that he's done, but I also want you to pay attention to something that I'm guessing is quite important to him, which is how he connects with the community when he's reporting, right? I think one of the things, maybe, he can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things that's maybe true about being a multimedia journalist and kind of a one-man band is that you are out there, right, by yourself connecting to people. If you can't make those connections, you can't report, but more importantly, if you can't make those connections, you don't really know what people want you and need you to report about, right? So I want you to kind of think about, as he's telling you about all this crazy, interesting stuff that he gets to do and all the different technological skills that he brings to it, I want you to also think about the people skills that he's bringing to it, because those are journalism skills too, and those are the kinds of things that you can take back home to your schools and so on, even along with all of those multimedia skills and so on. So I just want you to kind of think about building those kinds of connections and how journalists operate, you know, in partnership with the community and really trying to recognize and address the needs that people have. So before I leave the stage so that Ted can wow you,
which I'm sure he will, I also want to note that he's an alumnus of our journalism department here at Illinois. And so what you're seeing is someone who was able to gain a lot of these experiences and skills and really build his portfolio and get launched into a very interesting career here. What we have is a really small department in a very big university, and that provides some interesting benefits, right? It means a lot of one-on-one with faculty, and it also means the resources of one of the best research universities in the world. So it's a pretty winning combination, and I think Ted will probably tell you a little bit more about that. So I also want to make sure that if you haven't done so already, you complete one of these cards that they have on the tables there so that we can correspond with you about, you know, follow-ups for this and other information about us if you want that kind of thing. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and let the featured person go here. I leave you in the very capable hands of Ted Land, and I hope you'll join me in welcoming him.
Thanks, everyone, and good morning. I'm told my mom is watching the live stream, so this is very exciting. And it's really cool to see all of you students here, just the diversity, the size of this crowd. It gives me a lot of hope for what we're doing here in journalism, that this is the next generation. And it's really, really cool to see that you're here and interested in journalism and wanting to learn more about it, because when I was your age, I didn't do any of this stuff. I was more focused on like band and clubs and everything else. So you guys are like already ahead of where I was when I was your age. So that's really cool to see. I graduated from U of I in 2007, just across the quad from where we are. Walked across that stage, got my diploma, and I left campus with a plan in my head, more of a schedule actually, for what I wanted to do with my career early on, what my life would look like. I was 21 at the time, and I thought I knew exactly how my career would play out according to all of the things I had done to prepare. I was thinking in 2007, 2009, I'd have my first job in a small market. I'd work really hard, get some good breaking news under my belt, have a lot of clips to show people, do 2 years there, get out, move on to my next market, 2009. Now I'm getting really good, middle market size, starting to get noticed. I thought by 2011, 4 years into my career, I would be able to work in Chicago and all my family would be able to watch me on TV every day. And I thought that would be so exciting. And if I just did all this work the 2 years before, I'd make it. I also thought that's when I would win my first Emmy Award. From there, I just thought my career would just keep soaring, and I just had this like framework for what my life would look like after college as a journalist. Well, I'm 33. I don't work at the network. The people in Chicago still don't respond to my phone calls or emails. And I have to tell you that while goals are nice, having that kind of schedule in this business today is just kind of a silly idea. It just doesn't work like that. And so what I want to share with you today is just what I've learned in my 11 years working as a journalist about how to move up, how to get where you're going, how to do that with a clear mind, and firm goals about what you want. It's not going to play out the way you think it will, but if you have the right mindset and the right attitudes in place, you're going to get where you're going. You're going to get the job you want. You're going to get the stories you're trying to get. And you'll find satisfaction in a career that is demanding and difficult. It's never easy. I have to tell you, it's never easy, but it's extremely rewarding. And I'm just thrilled that you guys want to take part in that and share that experience. So how do you fit into all that? How do you not drown in the uncertainty? There will be days when you just question, why am I doing this? This is so hard. I'm in a city that I'm so far from home. I don't know anyone here. I'm not getting good stories. My boss is insane. These kinds of things. I just want to share with you some of my strategies for navigating all of that. And I want to show you some stories along the way just to show you what that looks like. When you set your mind to stories that you care about and you focus on doing good work and focus on people, and then you walk away with a story that maybe was in doubt when you went into it, and you walk away thinking, that's why I do this. That's exactly why I'm a journalist. Nobody else can do that, only we can. So I'm going to show you some examples of that. This was about a year ago, actually a year ago this week, and there may be similar scenes playing out today and in the coming days. I was down in Houston for the Hurricane Harvey, covering that for our company, and the whole city was underwater within a few days. I went out there with a crew, but I went out on this day solo with one other person helping me, but I was shooting, writing, and editing the story on my own. And it's an example of when you have all of the right tools in place, you know your equipment, you know how to ask questions, you know how to deal with people who are experiencing trauma, and you just go out there and you start asking questions. This is the kind of story you can walk away with that you can produce on your own.
You don't need one of those fancy airboats or jet skis to help.
We're trying to do what we can.
Not if you're David Vasquez and who rushed to a subdivision just south of Houston's Barker Reservoir, where rising water flooded homes.
Y'all got more people?
This inflatable rubber raft proved to be a very valuable asset in this community where hundreds of people were forced to evacuate.
It works. We rescued about 50 people yesterday.
Volunteer rescuers arrived with whatever they had in the garage. If it floats, they'll use it. Letty and Stephen Edmondson lost pretty much everything in their inundated house. Volunteer boat owners helped them survey the damage. Their kids, who are staying with friends, have a lot of questions.
They're worried. I know that they miss home. They're like, when can we go back home? And I'm like, oh, it's not going to be a long while till we go back home right now.
This is shocking.
The nearby Barker Reservoir is filled to the brim.
I've never, ever seen it like this. Ever.
Throughout the day, it kept rising, threatening even more neighborhoods.
We're going to be immobile if this doesn't. Something's got to give. but we're going to be immobile for a while.
Once we get them on the pontoon, we can bring them out.
In another subdivision, Cody Montgomery went back and forth with his pontoon boat, searching for anyone who needs help.
We've pulled about 30 people out of this neighborhood right here.
These guys are a lifeline for people like Spencer Wright, an 8th grade teacher whose apartment building is now submerged.
As soon as they release that dam, whoosh, everything up to here.
All afternoon, this flotilla of kindness delivered much-needed relief amid a deepening crisis.
It's amazing how you think that you're safe and then things change immediately and it's time to go.
This evening, there's a new line of boats and jet skis ready to head into those neighborhoods to help. The city of Houston has also staged a large fleet of Metro public buses nearby to help with evacuations. In Houston, I'm Ted Land. Now back to you.
How many of you get like a week to do a story or to write a story? Okay. That I turned around in about 7 hours from start to finish. Gives you an example of the kind of deadlines we deal with, how tight those deadlines can be, how hard it can be to just like work under the pressures of working in a disaster zone in an unfamiliar city with all this water coming in and the uncertainty of what's next. That's, to me, thrilling. I love that challenge. And I think I know a lot of journalists who thrive on that. And that's what makes for great stories. So I work at King 5 in Seattle. It's the NBC station there. That means I shoot, write, and edit my own stories every day. I work solo probably 90 to 95% of the time. A lot of times you see TV reporters out in the field and they have a photographer working with them. We do that at my station. That's common. But also increasingly common is where one person does it all. And sometimes I show up to people's houses for a story and they're like, where's your crew? Where's your cameraman? It's me. It's all me. So that's something that I worked my skills up to get to that point. This concept of doing it all, I think, has opened some really incredible doors for me. I get to go to stories like this. I get to travel to breaking news. If this hurricane this weekend turns out to be particularly bad, I might end up there next week. Who knows? But by doing it on my own, it got me to a really good station in a cool city that I want to live in. It helps me make a good living. That's not always the case when you start out your career. Some of the other stories I've covered: Las Vegas mass shooting. I was there. The Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. Wildfires. The flooding in Houston, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in Gulf of Mexico. There's a lot. There's at least a few every year that I get to go to. But I didn't end up doing this overnight. I didn't walk across the stage on graduation and then step into this scene. It took a lot of years of hard work and sacrifice and believing in myself and my work and not getting distracted by a lot of other things that could distract me along the way. At this point in my career, there's still a lot of uncertainty about what's next for me or how I get there. But I have figured out that these things are true. If you focus on doing consistently quality journalism, if you maintain a reputation as an honest person and hard worker, if you go to uncomfortable places, if you network like crazy, if you focus on your career, believe in yourself, find your voice, and not worry about others, and if you're patient, then you will advance in journalism. All of those things will intersect at an unexpected time, somewhere down the line. Opportunities will open up for you, and you'll get closer to your goals. But you have to hit all of these points. There are no shortcuts. If you burn bridges along the way, people will remember that. It's a small business to start off with when you graduate, and it gets much smaller by the time you're my age because people move on to other things. Here's how I define quality good journalism. It's finding a person, a place, or an idea that's otherwise hidden. It's something we overlook because we're so obsessed with the daily rush of headlines that we forget that there are important stories beneath the surface that nobody else has found, that everybody passes by, that other journalists think, oh, that's not interesting, or I'm too important to cover that story. That one just won't get a lot of clicks, or it won't be the lead story on our newscast. There are some very important stories under the surface, very quietly sitting there, that you have to look for. Those are the stories that I'm always looking for. This is one of them.
while the rest of Seattle settles down for the evening.
Everybody signed in?
Settles down for the evening.
Everybody signed in? Everybody's good?
This group is just getting started.
I've warned everybody that it might be a late one.
They meet in the basement of the Union Gospel Mission.
I decided, okay, we'll come out, and I'm hooked.
I love that.
Yeah.
A group of volunteers united by a need to help their neighbors.
12, 13, 15, 16.
Many have been recruited by Christine Moreland.
We have 22 people tonight. That's a bundle.
The mortgage loan consultant helps people find homes during the day. That doesn't change after hours.
Whatever home looks like to them, whether it be a shelter, whether it be their family's home, whatever it might look like to them, our journey is to get them there.
They stock up on supplies and take one last gulp of coffee.
And we raise our arms to you and we say,
Amen. All right, let's make our way.
Then they set out to search and rescue.
We need to remember that people die in these type of conditions.
This isn't some once-in-a-while, come-together-every-so-often effort. They're out here each Tuesday night as part of Moreland's More Love project, an effort she just started in August to help the people much of Seattle ignores.
Hi, guys.
She understands homelessness in a way many do not.
I got your beard trimmer on order.
All right.
I heard that's what you wanted.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a deeply personal mission.
Yeah, my father is what you drive by every day and what most people envision to be invisible. Yeah, my father currently lives on the streets of Seattle and is homeless.
He's out there somewhere. She hasn't seen him since she was a young girl, and in some ways, this is a search for him.
There's a part of me that certainly wants to make sure that other children, other mothers, other fathers, other sons, daughters don't go through what I ever went through. Don't wonder if they're alive, if they're safe, if they're okay. Hey guys, Union Gospel Mission, search and rescue. Anybody want a hot chocolate? We've got pasta tonight. Anybody hungry? Anybody home?
Moreland and her team will visit as many as 10 sites in a single evening.
Hot chocolate, pasta, pie. There you go, got one.
And they won't quit until midnight or later.
What's your name?
Daniel.
Daniel, nice to meet you. If you want to head over to those vans right there, they're serving.
Chicken Alfredo, and it's piping hot.
Next stop, the parking lot behind Seattle Public Schools headquarters.
That's cool. Yeah?
That's where we meet a family with 2 kids who emerge from the shadows.
Let's go get some food, okay? Let's go get some pie, buddy.
A sack of sandwiches should help a woman named Nikki and her 2 boys get through the next day or so.
Whenever the food stamps run out and the money stops at the end of the month, it means that my kids don't go hungry and that I don't go hungry. It means everything to us.
From here, we head to a spot under the Spokane Street Bridge.
About 10 people in tents over here.
One of the campers here needs much more than just a bite to eat. The woman in that tent is in pretty bad shape.
You need to go. You're sick, honey.
The volunteers think she needs to get to the hospital ASAP.
It sounds like she has pneumonia.
So the medics are on their way.
Were it not for the search and rescue team, she probably would have spent the rest of the night shivering, trying to ignore what could be a very serious condition. Some people use the word enabling to describe this effort. They think that if you constantly cater to a group's needs, the problem will only persist. Richard McAdams thinks those voices are wrong.
It was because people who got out of this van and showed the love that they did, that I was able to change my life around.
He spent 10 years living on the streets until 2013, when a different search and rescue team brought him to a shelter and helped him get sober.
Union Gospel Mission!
Now he works as a search and rescue specialist.
Oh, he's a hugger.
Oh, there we go.
He and Christine see a part of themselves on the streets, in people like Frank Christensen, who lives in an RV in Soto.
If it wasn't for them, I'd probably be dead right now. Really, and that's the God's honest truth.
It's a tough, lonely, uncertain life, but once a week, he knows a pair of vans will show up and surround him with love.
These people.
All of that happened in like 4 hours. And they're like, oh, we're still going past midnight. They went out to like 2 a.m. I'm like, I have way more than I need to work with. It was remarkable just to follow along with these people. We do stories about homelessness every day in Seattle. It's one of the biggest issues there. But nobody went out with these in the middle of the night. And they do this, they still do this every Tuesday night. Would you rather watch a press conference or a city council meeting about homelessness, or would you rather actually see the problem up close? Which to you makes you want to do something about this problem? These are the kind of stories that make a difference. These are the kind of stories that I'm always looking for. And they're out there. They're in your hometown. They're on this campus. They're everywhere. You just have to know who to look for. You just have to ask questions. And then go out in the middle of the night. Yeah, I had to work the next day, but this was a story that I I was determined to tell. Quality work means you have to get close to the story, as close as possible. That's something I learned toward the middle part of my career, that you can stand back and watch from a distance, or you can ask people for how they reacted to something when it actually happened, or you can get to the front lines of the story and watch it play out in real time. And you can get their actual reaction as something's happening. Often we say, so tell me, you saw this explosion happen. What was your reaction when you saw that? That reaction will always be watered down because it's a retelling of their actual reaction, which you missed because you weren't there when it happened. So the goal, and it's not always possible, but it should be a goal, is to get as close to the event as possible, get as close to the reaction. And how do you get close to a story? People, you have to gain trust. They're strangers. If somebody's in a compromising situation or an uncomfortable place, what's it like to have a camera there recording you, a stranger asking you questions? You have to get close, and to get close, you have to get people's trust. You have to build a relationship with people so they will let you in to a moment, to an experience that's very personal to them. 4 years ago, a high school student in Washington invited a group of students to his table before school started in the morning in the cafeteria, and then he pulled out a gun and shot and killed 4 of them. I got to the scene very quickly. Kids were still leaving the school with their hands up. Parents were showing up frantic outside. It's a scene I'll never forget. And we were there for several days. It was a big, big national story. And it's one of those stories you hope you never end up on, but they happen. And it ended up on my doorstep and on many people's doorsteps, and we had to cover this for several days. It became just a huge part of our coverage. And then 2 weeks later, the kids from that school were going back to school. The school closed for 2 weeks. Nobody got to go to class. They had a lot of work to do. And so everybody was going back to school, and that was a big news day for us. And it would be a big day of coverage because this was an important moment. These kids going back to class, the place that they had to run away from 2 weeks earlier. And I thought to myself, how are we going to cover this story? Okay, all the TV stations are going to show up to the high school, stand outside, interview people as they walk in. What's it like to be back? How do you feel? You must be happy. You know, all these crowds of people coming back into the school. I thought, I don't want to do that story. Everybody's going to be doing that story. Mine will look just like everybody else's. There's 4 TV stations in Seattle. Why are we all doing the same story? So I started thinking ahead. How can I get closer to the story? How can I get ahead of everybody else and get to a story that no one else is going to tell? So I started talking to a family I had met earlier in the week. They had a daughter who was in the cafeteria when the shooting happened. I had some sensitive conversations with them in the days leading up to the day returning back to school, and I gained their trust. I told them, I want to share your story. I think it's important. I think it's important that people see kids going back to class with confidence, with hope, and I want people to see that. I want to see what that looks like. And so they hesitated, but because I treated them with respect, because I allowed them to say no at first, and then to have them change their mind, and I didn't protest, I treated them with kindness, and I carefully explained that their story mattered, they let me into a place that no other reporter went to that day.
Well, for so many Murraysville families, getting the kids up in the morning, getting them ready for school, kissing them goodbye is never going to be the same. King 5's Ted Land met up with one family doing just that as they try to return to normal.
The morning routine in the Reynolds household
Are we ready for the bus?
used to be a little more hectic. They didn't always make time to sit down and enjoy breakfast as a family.
Usually it's cereal and milk on your way out to the bus.
But then, 10 days ago, they were reminded
You want some caffeine?
just how lucky they are to be here
Yeah.
together.
It was hard to hear her talk about it. So we're so grateful. I mean, she was okay, but just not knowing what all was going to come after that, you know.
15-year-old Jordan, a sophomore, was there that day in the cafeteria and is still processing all that she saw.
It's gotten better over the week. My friends are really helpful in being distractions, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not gone or forgotten.
They're taking this sometimes scary path after the shooting 1 hour at a time.
More love.
Some good, some not so good.
Okay, I'm not crying.
Yes, you are crying.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Sending their daughter back to school where it all happened won't be easy.
Today's a little bit different. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we were all home at the same time with the kids and get them out the door.
Okay, here we go, Monday morning.
They say as emotional as this day might be,
I've never actually been stopped on the roundabout before. We might all be a little bit nervous about today.
they just want to get back to what you might call normal life,
Love you. Okay. Text me a lot.
even though so much has changed.
Trying to hold it together. Trusting again. You know,
Ted Land,
she's still my baby.
King 5 News.
Still my baby.
Can you imagine having a TV camera in your kitchen while you're getting ready in the morning? How awkward is that? The only way that happened is because I got to know these people. And I was chatting with them on Facebook, you know, hey, I have this idea. I'll be there at this time. And I think you'd be surprised. People who experience really awful things sometimes need to talk about it. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it. They don't want anyone asking them questions. But you'd be surprised. Sometimes people, as part of their healing, they have to tell that story. They have to like let it out. And that's when we as journalists get access to a really personal moment. That makes for a powerful story. So by the time we got to the school, and there's all the reporters are there in that crowd right there, I already had my story. At 9 a.m., I was done. And that's like a story that I'm just like really proud of. And that's the kind of story I try to set out to do. It doesn't always happen, but that's what we try to do. So let's talk about reputation. That's important here. Reputation is so important. And it's that kind of story, to have that under your belt gets you noticed, but people will remember who you are as a person and as a journalist much longer than they remember that story. Your reputation is so important in this business. Whether you go into journalism, print, TV, multimedia, web, whatever. If you go be a chef, I don't know. Your reputation is so important in your career as you get older. If somebody finds out that you're complaining too much, forget about it. They'll find somebody else. If they hear from a former coworker who knew your friend, who was your roommate, who says that you just don't like care about your career, or that you're just motivated to be on TV, you don't really care about journalism, again, they'll find out. People do. Set your reputation now. You guys are at the right place in your careers. You haven't even started, you haven't gone to college yet. Think about this now, because in the coming years, people will figure out who you are in college, your sources, the people you do stories on, the people who you want to someday work for. Set that reputation now. Set a good reputation as an honest person, as a good person who doesn't burn bridges, who cares about journalism, who is not distracted by all the other stuff that can get in the way, who doesn't blow up when things get crazy. And believe me, they get very crazy. You have to bite your tongue sometimes. And if you say something you regret, you apologize. It still happens in my career. But that's part of this job. People will remember who you are. Don't do foolish things on social media. I can't emphasize this enough. I've seen a lot of journalists, reporters, others post things that make me roll my eyes or question them. That stuff lasts forever, and people will see it. How many times have you like made a new friend, or you're trying to figure out something about someone, and you go to their Facebook or Snapchat or whatever, and you're like starting to learn a lot about them within seconds, right? You can easily figure that stuff out. We do it as journalists too. Your hiring managers will do that. Get used to that. That's not going away. And I just have to say again, don't burn bridges with anyone. You may not like somebody. Just tolerate them, because you never know where they will end up. I've seen so many examples
of where this has helped me, not burning bridges with somebody, and I've seen examples where it has hurt others when I've seen it, when I've seen that play out. This business, you can't do that. There's no room for it. Who here has grown up in Illinois and never lived anywhere else? Show of hands. That was me too, at your age. I did that too. What are your plans after you graduate from college or high school? Is anyone here planning to go somewhere unfamiliar, away from home? Great. That's a good thing. I grew up in Palos Heights, southwest of Chicago, went to Shepherd High School, came here to Champaign for 4 years, and then I had to go find a job. So I started looking around, sent out a million resumes, started getting a few calls back. A lot of classmates looked at markets in Illinois, Quad Cities, Peoria, Carbondale, places not far from family and friends. They could drive home on the weekends. And, well, actually, they'd be working weekends, so they can drive home on their Monday, Tuesdays, day off. For a while, and for some people, that was an important consideration, and I respect that. But I also want to offer an alternative. Go somewhere unfamiliar and uncomfortable. It will help you as a journalist and as a person. It'll get you better stories. People will notice that, hey, this person who went to University of Illinois, who went to Eastern, who went to Southern, decided to go work somewhere in Oregon, or Alaska, or Hawaii, if you're lucky enough. There's a lot of really interesting places in this country that need journalists who are eager to hire young people right out of college. Go to one of those. Learn something about a new place, and you can understand this country a little bit better, and it will help you in your career. You're not moving there forever, unless you love it there and decide to stay. I've seen that happen too. But I ended up starting in Reno, Nevada, a place I had never been to and knew nothing about. But it looked like a cool job in a new place, and so I took it. But I didn't love the job. I did not like it, actually. And I can remember moments where I'm sitting in my car feeling very lonely there and wondering, why did I do this? This was a mistake. I don't like my work. I don't like my job. I don't like this place. I just graduated from college last year, and the marching band that I was in now gets to go to the Rose Bowl without me. Of course. And all my friends were back in college, and that just weighed on me a lot. It was tough, those first few years. Thinking back on those days, I'm really glad I didn't give up. Because I could have. I could have said, I'm done. I'm going back to Chicago. I'm going to go work. I don't know. I'll find a job doing something. I'm really glad I didn't give up, because there were moments where I wanted to. Because those moments led me here. It's because of those experiences, my lows, it allowed me to get to a place in life where I'm like, this is what I want to do. I'm satisfied. I like what I do. I live in a cool city. I have a great job. But it doesn't happen overnight. After I was in Reno, I went to Alaska, because why not? They were hiring. I packed up my car, my Saturn, and drove 3,600 miles from Chicago to Anchorage for my next job. I drove by myself, by the way. I'm not sure why, but I think I just wanted to get there. And it took about 9 days driving through the Yukon territories. But it was a beautiful drive, and I was happy in Alaska. It was 3 weeks after I got there, the presidential election took off, Sarah Palin became a household name, and it was just national news for a year. Got to go to the Arctic, got to fly with the Air Force in float planes, snow machines, snowmobile for you all, dog sleds. I learned so much about this place and met some really incredible people. In the state, I met some lifelong friends who are still friends to this day. I worked at a cool station. I thought I'd stay there a year or two. I ended up staying for 4 years. It was an uncomfortable place, but it became a familiar place to me. And because I went to Alaska, people look at my resume and they're like, that's cool. You went to Alaska. You didn't, instead of like Wichita, you know? No offense, Wichita, but people notice when you take a risk. Nobody said, after I went to Alaska, you went to Alaska? Great. We're hiring you next. You're coming to St. Louis or Atlanta or wherever. It just doesn't work like that. But having that on your resume, along with all this other stuff, it creates this interesting character, this person that seems like a good journalist, seems like somebody who's willing to go to uncomfortable places. Stories also take you to uncomfortable places. If you're just doing stories about the things that interest you or that are familiar to you, you're not doing enough. You have to go to uncomfortable places for stories. Sometimes you go to very uncomfortable places, places you'd never thought you would end up, places that other people are running from. 2 years ago, I was in Atlanta attending a photography workshop when we started getting some alerts on our phones about a shooting at a gay nightclub in Orlando. Wasn't sure what to make of it at first, but by sunrise, it became clear just how awful that story was, and because I was close, I was heading there. My company said, get there as soon as you can. We need people there. It's a national story. It'll be a very big story. So I got there as families were gathered outside the hospital, families of the victims. They were screaming as they learned the news about who lived and who did not live. I was watching, I stood there and I was just like, oh my God. I was just watching this on TV and now I'm there. It's playing out in front of you. It's surreal. But in that moment, you're like, I can just stand here or I can tell this story. I have to tell this story. It's the biggest story of my time. So you start gathering and you start learning about the victims and the people and who they are. 49 people died. They looked like some of my friends. They were at a place that maybe I would have been to. For me, this was the toughest story I ever covered, and it was very uncomfortable. But you take things away from it. It is a privilege to cover those stories because people need to understand. And you can't just cover the fun stuff. You have to employ all the tools that I just showed you on these stories on the important, big, breaking stories, because that's when all the eyes are on you.
We have complete coverage of the shooting and also local past hour. We learned that the president will travel to Orlando on Thursday to pay his respects to the victims' families.
Many of those families just found out today that their loved ones did not make it. King 5's Ted Land reports from Orlando.
It's still a very active scene with investigators working at the nightclub just down the street. That work will continue for days. Police, though, are wrapping up the process of notifying family members who are emotionally drained after several hours of uncertainty. By the time families arrived at Orlando's Beardall Senior Center, they already knew.
I find in 1 o'clock this morning the truth. You know, the news.
Cesar Flores no longer has to wonder what happened to his 26-year-old daughter, Mercedes. He believes she was hiding in the bathroom at the nightclub when the shooter moved in.
Well, my wife is completely broke down, you know. She's bad right now, you know. I don't know what she's going to do.
Mercedes was in college with so many ideas about what she wanted to do with her life. She had just brought her dad something to eat the day before. He wouldn't see her again. All morning long, families made the grueling trip to and from the senior center, the first few steps of what will be a painful journey of grief.
The sheriff went to my house and let me know exactly what's going on.
Ana Disla and her husband Luis came here for their nephew.
Yes, we know.
25-year-old Anthony Luis Lorian Disla. Anthony, seen here on a Facebook remembrance page, was born in Puerto Rico and came to Orlando because he wanted a better life.
We missed him, we love him, you know, he's still going to be in our memories and our hearts. That's never going to go away. We remember the person that he was, not, you know, what he is right now.
By early afternoon, the families started leaving. They can now plan funerals and other arrangements now that they know the awful truth. Several groups are offering services to family members of the victims, including nonprofits and churches. They were there at the senior center today, escorting families onto the property, bringing them back to their cars. They've been praying with them, comforting them, and they say that help will be available as long as they need it. That story is still tough to watch for me, and I'm not showing it to scare you or frighten you away from this career. It's to prepare you. These stories will happen. They will. And you have to rush into a very uncomfortable, difficult place, and you have to help people understand what's happening. That's a very difficult challenge, but it's a challenge that I take very seriously because somebody has to go there and do those stories. Somebody has to help people understand something that just seems unthinkable. And it's just an example of like the wide range of places that this career takes you. For me, I walk away from that with a deeper appreciation for life and the people in it. it's one of those reasons why I am a journalist. I'm grateful in a dark way that this career takes me right up to the edge of the human experience, and I get to look down and see how deep that can be, how bad it can get into its depths. And then I get to walk away at the end of the day. I get to walk away from it. They don't. This is where I'll also stress the importance of taking care of yourself as a journalist. No one is prepared to go to a place like that after what happened there and walk away unscathed. I was there for a week among these families. I got to know them, their names. I saw the pictures, the memorials. It was like attending 49 funerals for people you didn't know. Nobody is wired to just shake that off. I'm not ashamed to say that I needed to see a professional counselor after that experience, and I know a lot of other journalists who did the same thing. I've done it after that school shooting I mentioned. Nobody can go there and meet all these people and absorb everything that's around them and then walk away like, well, okay, now on to the next story. You carry these things with you, and for everyone it's different. It can be the smallest story. It can be a mass shooting. Just be aware, take care of yourself. Don't think that because I'm standing up here and I've gone to all these places that I'm somehow tough or I'm somehow, these things don't affect me. They do. And honestly, if you're a great journalist, they should affect you. You should know what an emotion feels like because that helps you express that to others. So take care of yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help, to seek help out. There'll be times in your career when this anxiety becomes sometimes overwhelming. And it could be because of a story or just the general difficulty of being a news reporter. It's not easy, and there are moments when you need help. And I'm here because I didn't just like brush that off. I probably wouldn't have made it through my career if I was so, cavalier about those things. Has anyone at this conference already met somebody from a different school who you didn't know before and talked to them? Show of hands. Anyone? I know you guys just arrived. Okay, before you leave today, meet someone else from a different school. Shake their hand, introduce yourself, tell them what kind of stories you're working on, tell them what your career goals are. That's called networking. See it? We all should be doing that. You're already ahead of the curve. You're in high school, you're at this conference, you're already networking. When you're here today, go say hi to somebody from a different school. Add them as a Facebook friend. The next time you're in that part of the state or part of the town, go have coffee with them. That's networking. I do it. We all do it. And it's such an important part of what we do as journalists. Not just for stories, to meet people, to meet sources, but for your career ambitions. You don't get jobs just by emailing a resume to someone. It just doesn't work like that. I did not get my job in Seattle because I saw an opening and did the online thing and somebody called me. When I worked in Alaska and would occasionally visit Seattle, I always made a point to email the news director at King 5, where I now work, and I'd ask if he could meet me for a few minutes and just watch some of my stories. Do you have 30 minutes? I'll be in Seattle on this date. Most of the time he was, yeah, come on in. That's all I asked for. So he'd watch some of my stories and tear them apart. You didn't do this, you should have done this, I didn't like that. It was very critical, but I sat there and nodded, okay, took notes, listened to what he had to say. He kept saying I was not ready to work at the station. Probably wasn't. And I did this for years, like 3-4 years I would do this. And email him, hey, I just did this story, I thought it was cool, can you watch it? And after years, I was wondering, are they ever going to hire me? Am I even good enough? I don't think so, because they're not calling me, so maybe I should do something else. But one day, they called. They needed some reporters who could also shoot video and edit stories on their own, work by themselves. I didn't even have to apply for the job. They came to me at the station that I always wanted to work for. And it didn't happen because I got lucky. It happened because I planted seeds 5 years earlier, and I kept cultivating them. And I had all this other stuff going for me. And if one of those things interfered, I wouldn't be where I am. Spent a lot of time, too much time actually, early in my career, watching what my classmates were doing. Some of them moved up pretty fast in the business, and I was still stuck in Alaska. And I really wondered at that time, like, why are they moving up so fast and I'm not? I'm so driven. What am I lacking? My last 2 points I think are very, very important. Like I mentioned, doesn't matter what you do in your career. Focus on your career and your goals. Don't get distracted by what others are doing. Don't feel bad about not getting where you want. Ask anyone who's at the top of the business what it was like for them, and they can all tell you the same thing. It just didn't happen on the terms that they thought it would. Don't lose sight of your goals and your dreams. They are valid and they exist for a reason. It might not be clear where that's taking you at first, but if you feel something like that, it's pulling you in that direction. You have to be patient. These points here all add up. You won't know it until it happens, and it will happen because you just didn't give up. Who here is into sports, wants to do sports journalism? Okay. I am not a sports person. All of my coworkers can tell you this. Don't assign him the Seahawks story, he'll mess it up. They just know that. I can cover a lot of things, as you saw. But ask me to cover sports, and, well, just they know not to ask that anymore. But I did see a quote from Kobe Bryant that caught my attention, and I've thought about it a lot, because it reminds me of why I do this. He said, "Those times when you get up early and you work hard, those times when you stay up late and you work hard, those times when you don't feel like working, you're too tired, you don't want to push yourself, but you do it anyway. That is actually the dream. That's the dream. It's the destination. It's the journey." I think about that sometimes when I'm driving to a story that I don't care about, or a story that I know will be really challenging. At 3 a.m., I worked the morning shift this week. I was up at 2 a.m. every day, on the air at 5. That is the dream. I'm telling you, that is the dream. That experience, working so hard in that moment, and then you go on the air and you're explaining something that just happened and people are waking up and you're the one to tell them this story. When you're the only one there getting a certain story that nobody else has, that is the dream to me, and I feel it every time I go out. I want to leave you with a story that makes me smile and makes me feel hopeful. This is the kind of story that defines, I think, what I do. It's what some of my coworkers would call a Ted Land story. That, to me, is really important. It means I found my voice, and it took many years to do that. I stopped copying, and I don't mean literally copying, but copying the style of other reporters who I admire, and I started listening to my own voice. So think about what your voice is. What are you passionate about? What stories do you care the most about? Do you have a style of writing that nobody else has? We all read other people's work and watch other people's work, and I pick up little tidbits from that, and I say, that was brilliant. I would love to write like that. But then I thought, okay, but how do I write? What kind of story do I want to tell people? What kind of story somehow instinctively falls in my lap that I can pull off really well? This is one of those stories. People know to call on me when these ideas come up, and that makes me incredibly grateful and proud because it means I kind of have an identity as a journalist. And we have a lot of journalists. Some are really good investigative reporters. Some are deeply sourced sports reporters. Some are great live TV reporters who can interview anyone on air and make them smile. Some are print reporters who can take a really complex legal issue and explain that in a way that matters. There are so many ways you can take your career. Don't try to do it all. Find the thing that you are most passionate about, that you care about, that feels comfortable and right to you, and then do those stories, because those are the ones that'll make you stand out. It's a story that gives me faith in people. This story gives me faith in people. It makes me proud of what I do, and it makes me very grateful.
Where is the garbage truck?
On most blocks, it's just another chore.
What do we hear?
But at 2-year-old Isaac Williams' Sammamish home, garbage day is not to be missed.
Is he coming up here? There he is.
For any toddler, it's fun to watch hulking machines rumble by.
Hey, Rick! Hey, Rick!
For Isaac, the highlight is seeing the guy in the neon vest. That's Rick Netherland.
Rick.
He and Isaac have become fast buddies.
You get some knuckles?
Ever since Rick found out about Isaac's struggles.
Man, he's 2 years old. Never had that chance to even be a kid yet, you know.
Isaac has stage 4 cancer of his nervous system. He's had a stem cell transplant, 5 rounds of chemo, and starts radiation next week.
That hit home.
Rick's wife, is fighting cancer. When a neighbor told him about Isaac's condition, something in him stirred.
And I just wanted to be and do something for that little boy and their family. That's just how we are.
Last week, Rick and some colleagues rolled up to the Williams house in their 18-ton sleighs loaded with presents.
We got a little surprise for you.
Even Santa doesn't make this kind of entrance.
Hello, good morning.
The crew hung out, opened presents, and got to know the little boy they passed so many times.
This little man here, I want to support him. I want to see him go through his graduation. That's why I told his mom. I said, it'd be nice to see some graduation tickets and we watch him collect his diploma. Anything I can do to help him get that far, I'm there for him.
Did you say Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas.
Amid all the stuff we tossed to the curb,
It is pretty amazing.
they found friendship.
We're blessed.
Ted Land, King 5 News.
Thank you. I follow Isaac religiously on Instagram. Every day. He's like the one person I want to see on Instagram. He's doing really well today. I think he's done with his cancer treatments and he's at home and with his family, and yeah. They're a great, great family, and he gets to do all kinds of cool things like meet with the Seahawks and be part of Make-A-Wish Foundation and whatnot. He's just a really cool kid, and he's doing really well today. I just want to leave you guys with one challenge. That's something that you can do in the coming year. There's a lot of people in the world now who question what journalists do, who think it's not real, or think it's some kind of conspiracy that we are all in this, I don't know, this scheme. Does anyone know somebody like that in their lives? Can you raise your hand if you do? That somebody just doesn't believe what we do? Okay, your job in the coming year, and hopefully soon, is to go do a story on anything. A story that you've been meaning to do. And either take this person along with you and show them how it's done, or hand over your notes and walk them through how you do a story. Explain to them what journalism is, because a lot of people actually don't get it. They don't know what it is. They don't know how we gather stories. Take this person, this disbeliever, along with you. This is how we interview people. This is how we verify what they're saying. This is how we sort out fact from fiction. And then this is how we present it to our audience. It's up to you to not just oh, they're crazy. Why are people saying that? They're just insane. Show them how it's done. Help educate people who don't believe what we do. That's how you're going to make a difference. And that's how you're going to get trust. That's how you're going to help people understand what we're doing, and it'll help you do this job in the end. So thank you for your time. And don't hesitate to email me or follow me on social media if you have questions.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ted Land, for joining us today. Welcome home. Breakout sessions start at 10:30. So you have in your program, you have different rooms that are covering different topics on second floor and third floor of the Union. So if you go straight out this hallway, take a right, you'll see a staircase. You can go up to the second or third floor based off of what topic you want to hang out in. All right, have fun, guys. We'll see you later today. Enjoy.
That was so incredible. It was so wonderful to hear Mr. Land speak about so many inspiring things in a field that we are both so passionate about.
And I hope that the students probably realize the necessity of that good quality journalism. That obviously he produced. Those stories gave me chills.
Absolutely, yeah. I got emotional at certain points.
Actually tearing up or getting shit. That was incredible.
You know, it's really nice to see some of those really heartwarming stories in a time where we don't always get to see that, and seeing kind of those tougher things too, and how to really deal with that as a professional journalist, which is just amazing. And I had seen this story about Isaac before and had no idea that it was a university alum who had actually worked on that story. Yes. You know, you get stuck in your little Facebook feeds and you're going through and, you know, crying over the military homecomings, those kind of things. So,
that's incredible. I love to say we have an alum who's doing such incredible journalistic work out there.
Exactly.
And really inspiring, I think, all of us and these young people to do the same.
Yes, and I really loved what he was talking about being patient and about really taking your time to kind of continue going for your dreams. And I think that that's something that everyone in every field can really kind of take to heart.
Yeah. So absolutely, absolutely.
Which is really neat.
We're really fortunate.
And we are going to keep going and keep trucking on in our dreams and working on campuses and, you know, doing things like Good Morning Illini, which is really exciting. And we have some new and really excited and eager anchors to kind of introduce you to get started
show you guys who they are
for our new season. So if you guys want to come on out and introduce yourselves. Hi, guys.
Hey.
How's everybody doing? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Take a mic. We're so excited. So we are now joined by our newest GMI anchor. So if everybody wants to introduce themselves. Want to go ahead and start, Addie?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Addie Ippinson. I'm a senior here studying broadcast journalism and political science and public relations. So super excited for GMI this year. Great way to kick off the year, for sure.
Great.
Hi, guys. I'm Chris, also a senior in broadcast journalism. I'm just so excited to share your stories, and we've already got some exciting things in the works. So please, tune in and watch us.
Yeah.
Sure. Hi everyone, my name's Erica Finke. I'm also a senior in broadcast journalism. I was actually in GMI 2 semesters ago. I'm really excited to be back, so definitely stay tuned this semester.
Hey, I'm Malik Caudell. I'm also a senior over here in journalism. Always proud to be an Illini, ready to bring you some awesome stories this semester. Just stay tuned for all that.
Well, welcome, guys. We are so excited. Rebecca and I are the babies now on the show, just being a sophomore and junior year. But what do you guys
to try out new things? I know for me personally, I've never done GMI before, so I'm super excited for that and super excited to see all the opportunities and get ready for that real world experience type stuff.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, I'm also super excited. So, fun fact, our producers, Tommy and Steve, as well as Malik and I, were all in the same TV1 class, so I'm just really excited to get to work with the best TV bros and produce some quality content for you guys.
I think what's cool about Good Morning Illini as opposed to, any other morning show in college, no offense TV1, TV2, I just think it's different content that a lot of college students really want to see, things around campus, what's the buzz, so I really think it's going to be a great semester.
I think a big part for me that's really cool to look forward to is just being a senior and being able to kind of leave a lasting impression for my underclassmen to follow, and just being able to kind of, show them what it's all about, and maybe have some fun while we're doing it,
Oh, we will definitely be having some fun with some, we're going to be going to the haunted houses, maybe bringing back some dad jokes. We'll see what happens.
Well, be sure to catch us every Friday morning on GMI. And that's our show. Thank you all for joining us.
We will be back in Richmond Studios next Friday at 10 a.m.
Make it a great day, and we're so glad you started your weekend with a
Good Morning Illini!